There is a dramatic shift in the Ukraine war. Europe is preparing to send troops to Ukraine. It claims it is a part of a U.S. proposal for a peace agreement, but Russia has warned that it will not tolerate any Western troop deployment in Ukraine. Here's a report.
The front lines are heating up. Ukraine's entire eastern front is gradually collapsing. Russia is ramping up the attacks. Russian drone attack has triggered massive fire at Odessa storage facility after Pokrovsk and Seversk. Moscow now claims to have captured Kupiansk, a key city in northeast Ukraine. But Kyiv dismisses Moscow's claims.
Last week, I visited one of our cities on the front line, yes, our city of Kupiansk. And it's a city in the eastern Ukraine, and the front line is now very, really close to it. And Putin publicly lied, claiming that Russian forces had already taken the city. So I went to Kupiansk myself to show the world Putin is lying.
Moscow's swift advance in the eastern region is keeping Kyiv on the edge. Pressure from US President Donald Trump to cede territory remains the biggest sticking point, despite multiple rounds of talks.
That war should have never ever started, but it did, and we're trying to get it solved. That was Biden's situation. We're trying to get it done. And I think we're closer now, and they will tell you that they're closer now. We had numerous conversations with President Putin of Russia, and I think we're closer now than we have been ever.
Trump appears to suggest that in exchange for security guarantees, Ukraine must agree to give Russia the parts of the eastern Donbas region that Kyiv still holds, something Zelensky has previously ruled out. Europe says it is ready to lead a multinational force in Ukraine. It claims it a part of a US proposal for a peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine. UK, France, Germany and 8 other European countries are offering to assist Ukraine in deploying their troops, in securing Ukraine's skies and in supporting safer seas, including through operating inside Ukraine. Europeans say that the troop deployment has American backing. Russia has drawn a red line. Moscow says under no circumstances it will agree to the deployment of Western troops in Ukraine in any form, including within the NATO framework. But the US has maintained a consistent policy of not sending American troops to fight in Ukraine. So questions arise: to what extent will the US go to intervene if the future deployment of European troops come under Russian attack?
Mr. Joachim Bitterlich is a former German ambassador to NATO and former European diplomatic and security advisor to German Chancellor Helmut Kohl. He is now joining us live on this broadcast. Ambassador, thank you very much for your time. President Putin has warned Europe of consequences if the bloc decides to send troops to Ukraine. Your thoughts?
Well, we are near the hardcore of the real negotiations between Washington and Moscow. Because this idea to send in a multinational, or call it a European force, with US support that could assist in the regeneration of Ukrainian forces, in securing Ukrainian skies, in supporting safer seas, including through operating inside Ukraine. It's not a new proposal, it's a proposal that has been launched by President Macron and British Prime Minister some weeks before. I think the Americans have accepted it, and for the Russians this is one of, let's call it, the worst cases. And the Russians see this case, even as I make my interpretation from what the Russians are telling, it's even worse than NATO to some extent. And therefore, let's see, is this the last word of the Russians or not? I've doubts whether it would be even at the end acceptable to the Russians, but perhaps this could be help to get other, let's say, lines of compromise or other concessions from the Russian side. Perhaps let's see.
Ambassador,
the whole... Yes,
Ambassador, let's talk about the peace plan now, because Trump appears to suggest that in exchange for security guarantees, Ukraine must agree to give Russia the parts of the eastern Donbas region that Kiev still holds, something that President Zelensky has previously ruled out. How do you think that will play out in the long run? Very quickly.
Let's see. I don't think that any side has given its last word on this question. I understand, to some extent, Zelensky's answer. He needs sort of a referendum in order to give in on this side. And the Russians have annexed these sides of Ukraine. What's for me, it's out of any, let's say, disinformation war between the two sides is the Crimea. And I think perhaps the Crimea could be helpful to find a solution, to find, let's say, the intermediate one with regard to the Donbas. Let's see.
All right, let's see. Ambassador Bitterlik, it's good to see you. Thank you very much for talking to us today.
Pleasure as always.